No, but if I show your face. All right, do we have everyone's permission to record?
You do.
That was a joke. I wasn't asking. Good.
Just don't take my face, it might break the computer.
No, you're fine. I think you'd be fine. All right, I figured before we begin anything like with questions and answers, I thought I'd just share something. I know that today on the calendar is the day that they commemorate the Holocaust. I'm not sure that we'll go in that direction of conversations, but I did read something that Connie actually shared with me a number of months back, something that she had watched someone share, and then I subsequently read it in an article I thought was really powerful for today. So after the Holocaust, there was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Aaron Rokeach, who actually my father-in-law is named after this rabbi. He was no, not Rokeach like the company. I mean, maybe related, but he was the rabbi or one of the rebbes of the Belz Hasidic dynasty. And so he was a Holocaust survivor. His entire family of many children and his wife were brutally murdered during the Holocaust. He came out with his brother, I think, and his nephew, and they go to Israel. And in Israel, they decide to settle, believe it or not, in Tel Aviv. Not where you would assume like Jerusalem or some other city that's very Jewish, whatever that means, but maybe more already centered with a Jewish seat of synagogues and Jewish life. And the reason why he did Tel Aviv, at least this was what I've read, is because he said Tel Aviv had no churches. Interesting. It had no shuls either, don't worry. But his point was, as he moves to Tel Aviv with his brother, he shares a story. His first Shabbat that he was in Tel Aviv, a few other survivors were in Tel Aviv as well, and they come for what they call a tish. Many of the Hasidic groups, they do on Shabbat. Tish means table. So they would come together for a table, Yiddish. They would come together for a tish, which would have inspiration, songs. And these survivors, though, they don't have that desire and joy of life at that moment. It's like, how can we sing? How can we do something joyous together when we just survived fairly? We lost our families. We have nothing. And so he shared something on the Torah portion that reads the story of the Jewish people singing after the splitting of the sea. So I read this because we just read that on Passover. And in truth, we celebrate Pesach, and the first days of Pesach are that we left Egypt. But we're not truly free until after the splitting of the sea, because the Egyptians are still following us and they try to kill us or bring us back to Egypt, whichever route we would have taken if we would have fought or just went back. And so there's a very interesting thing when you look at the song of the sea, as we call it, the Az Yashir. So it says that once the sea split, then all the Egyptians drown in the sea. The Jewish people immediately begin to sing. And when you talk about it, or when you read in the Torah, it says the women sang, the men sang. It was very joyous. First of all, they saw a huge miracle. They survived. They're praising God. But if you look at the text, not the way we read it in the English, that they sang, the actual Hebrew text is future tense. Az Yashir. Then they will sing. And there's a lot of commentaries that say this is an allusion to the Messianic era, that there will be a Messianic era. And during that time, we'll be reunited with our loved ones. And that's why it says, then we will sing. So this rabbi basically tells his followers who are sitting around the table with them that, why is the Torah writing it in future tense? He says, because those survivors of the splitting of the sea, they were survivors. There is a commentary that says that only 1/5 of the Jewish people made it out of Egypt. So that means if we were 2.2 million people, every single person knew at least one, if not more, up to 4 people that didn't come out of Egypt. And you can imagine the type of feeling that they had. They were free, but they lost so many loved ones. How can you be joyous? And so he shared what was their consolation, what made them be able to sing the promise that there will be a resurrection of the dead, that we will be reunited with our loved ones. And that was what gave them the strength that they were able to sing and praise God for their safety. And so he shares this with his followers. He says the same thing. He says, yes, each and every single one of us lost loved ones. And if we talk about in the modern, I'm going to say today, every single one of us has a relative somewhere down the line that was lost in the Holocaust, whether it was a direct grandparent or just relatives as we start going generationally and moving out on that. But the fact is, every single person was affected. And so he said the only consolation that they had was that they knew that God promised that there will be a time when we'll be reunited with our loved ones. And so I just felt like that would be something important to share today. They're only from 8 to 6 p.m. They said, how many did it say on the paper? 6,000 names.
Which is only
1% of the people who died and were murdered in the Holocaust that they're going to get through in their reading. So when you think about the magnitude of the loss, there are plenty of Jewish people that said, I can't go on. And of course, there were so many that said, I will go on for them, right? Everyone had their own struggles. So I just thought it would be of interest to share this story that the Egyptians did the same thing in the sense of decimating the Jewish people and how that generation found inspiration and solace at the same and console just at the same time, battling many different feelings. Yes.
I have two quick questions. One, Abby Roquet and I grew up together.
Is she related?
Well,
It could be.
let me ask.
Yeah.
But we grew up together, so that was one thing. The other thing is, when all the synagogues and the JCCs and everybody say, read the names of the 6 million.
Right.
Do they all start with the same name?
I assume, well, do you know how the Yellow Candle project works? With I think it's from the conservative movement. Oh, you have one. I didn't even notice. They give one name. So I assume that there is a master list that they're sharing. And if they're doing it right, every community or JCC or synagogue that's reading names, where's the name though? There's a paper that shares that. Yeah. So I assume every single person and every synagogue splits up that list so they can read all the names. I will share that this rabbi did not say Kaddish for his family. Yeah. Because Kaddish is meant to elevate the soul. And he said those souls don't need elevation. They're holy. They died because they were murdered because they're Jewish. They are what we call in Hebrew Kedoshim, holy ones. So they don't need my Kaddish. And if I do a Kaddish for them, I'm insulting that idea. So again, the sentiment that he felt.
Kaddish is a reaffirmation of the mourner's faith in God.
Correct. So Kaddish praises God. So one of the ways that we understand, why are we praising God?
On behalf of the mourner, not.
Correct. It's for the soul. It's for the mourned. Is that what you're asking?
The people who are mourning are stating their reaffirmation of their faith in God.
Correct. The first, I think, line of the Kaddish kind of says that, kind of like that we trust that God knows why a person was on this earth and how long their purpose was. Yes, but we recite the Kaddish for the soul of the deceased. So yeah, you are correct. Both.
Yeah, I always thought it was strange that we say Kaddish for, but it's singing for me.
Well, so there's both. The Kaddish, basically, if you think about it, doesn't talk about the mourner. It praises God. The paragraphs are praising God. And so it says there's one less person on earth praising God. And so the mourners take that place to praise God. And that helps the soul of the mourned. But you are correct. The first line of the Kaddish does kind of affirm our belief in God and God's purpose and why a person is on this earth, but very minimally. But yes.
People reading the names all start with A.
Then we'll never get through all the names.
No, then there are people whose names will never be read.
Right. So I assume, hopefully, that they coordinate. That there's somebody with a master list and says, how many do you think you can read? We'll give you A through B, kind of like that. So I don't know. In fact, if you want to find out when you go back downstairs, Frank Lane is the one who arranged this one. You could ask him. I'm curious. You could ask him, yeah. I don't know the answer.
Then there are those that they never, they're not on our list and nobody knows.
Yeah. Interestingly, during the pogroms of 100 and something years ago, we recite something every single Shabbos for them. So there have been different times in our history that we've gone through tremendous, I'm going to say murders and assaults on Jewish communities, decimated neighborhoods, villages. And so we do have a prayer every Shabbos for all those that have been killed because they're Jewish. And we don't recite it when it is a Shabbat that has a joyous kind of date on the Jewish calendar where you wouldn't recite mourner prayers. But we do recite it next month. I'm giving you an example. If you bless the new month, that's a joyous day. That day we don't recite that prayer. Next month, which is for Sivan. So this Friday is Rosh Chodesh for ER, the Jewish month of ER. Next month will be Sivan. That's the month of Shavuos. Thank you. And so that month we actually recite that prayer because that's when the brunt of all that destruction happened.
You tell us what the prayer is, even though it's not sure.
I'll have to pull it out. It's called Ab Harachamim, Father of Mercy or Compassion. Let me get it for you.
This is the prayer that said
At the gravesite.
at the gravesite.
Yeah, this is a bit longer. I'm gonna Ab Harachamim Shabbat.
But in every generation, like in the Haggadah, it says in every and it's true, in every generation, someone comes along to get rid of the Jews, to murder the Jews.
Okay, here you go. You ready?
Ready?
This prayer is called Father of Mercy. Is a Jewish memorial prayer which was written in the late 11th or early 12th century after the destruction of the Ashkenazi communities around the Rhine River by the Christian Crusaders during the First Crusade. First appearing in prayer books in 1290, it is printed in every Orthodox siddur, Sephardi or Ashkenaz, and it is recited as a part of the weekly Shabbat services, except on special Shabbats, like we mentioned. And here is the text. The merciful Father who dwells upon high in his great mercy will consider with compassion the pious, the upright, the pure, the holy congregations which laid down their lives in sanctification of God, who were beloved and cherished in their lives, and even in death were not parted, who are swifter than eagles and fiercer than lions in their service to the Creator. He will mark them down for good, together with the heroes of old. We will see him avenge them, avenge the spilled blood of his servants. As it says in the laws of Moses, sing of his people, O nations, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, return vengeance upon his enemies, will soothe his land and his people. And the further says in the prophets, even when I forgive, I will not forgive their bloodshed when the Lord dwells in Zion. And the writings, it says, why do the nations ask, where is their God? We should see the nations taught how you revenge the spilled blood of your servants. And it says, for the seeker of blood will remember them. He will not ignore the cries of the innocent. And it says, he will judge among the nations full of corpses, his head bowed across the great land from a stream by the way he will drink. Only then will he raise his head. So it's asking God to never forget them, if you think about it. And obviously on our part, we do a mitzvah. That's how we memorialize. So like I always think about like today, really, when you think about it, is it about reading names? I mean, names is of course something that you show you haven't forgotten a person, but more than the name is to do something positive on their behalf or in their merit, and that each one of us can do a different way.
Is this a traditional day for tzedakah?
The answer would be yes, but I'm going to add something interesting. There is a very interesting, I'm going into not politics, but Jewish law discussion on this day, okay? There are many rabbis that don't like that this day was chosen. The reason for that is there is like a Jewish tradition that says we already have enough sad days in our life. If we're going to mourn someone that you don't know the day that they passed, for example, nothing to do with Holocaust, find a day that's already sad. And so the truth is, like in Jewish tradition, the fast day of the 10th of Tavis, which is one of the three fasts that we do for the destruction of the temples, is a day that many people will recite Kaddish for a loved one that they don't know when they died. So, for example, I have a grandfather that would say Kaddish for his father, and he never knew what day his father was killed. So he would do it on a day that was already a sad day. Eventually, he found out what day his father passed, because after fall of communism, they got the articles and different interrogations, the papers, and they found out what day he was killed. So then you'll start saying Kaddish on that day. But there is a Jewish thing that this month is a very joyous month, the month of Passover. And so to add a day of mourning is questionable. Now, the reason why I think they chose this day because today was a ghetto uprising day. And so it was a day of strength at the same time. I think that's why they chose this day. I'd have to check that. But there is a kind of a pull on this, like what's the right thing to do? I don't know who decided it. I think it was the state of Israel that decided it. And as we know, the state of Israel is not based on a religious value system. So they chose a date for a reason. I'm 99% sure. I'll quickly Google it, why this
So
date.
what if someone had a personal day of mourning? Do we observe it?
Yeah.
This month?
Yeah, for sure. So it's we don't add. Meaning if we didn't know it, why choose this day? Or in this sense, we're not choosing it because somebody was specifically killed today. We're saying we're going to choose one day that will be the day for the entire year. And I think, by the way, there's another Holocaust Memorial Day, not Yom HaShoah. That's like internationally celebrated or observed, right? I'm going to Google it
Is this
too.
the one where they pull over on the side of the road? And
Yeah.
as well?
Yes.
So if this, to me, this is a very beautiful thing. Why isn't it published more? I mean, I never heard of this until you just said it.
Okay, here, but I'm going to come back. This specific date was chosen by Israel in 1951 to commemorate the anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which actually was April 19th, 1943, balancing historical accuracy with a desire to avoid the Passover period. So they use a Hebrew date, the 27th of Nisan, that's today. And that was the day of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Now, let's find out what day is national.
Guy was talking the other day at Bethel with the Holocaust thing, saying that his mother was pregnant with him and Hitler's birthday was 420. And since they were celebrating his birthday, the Nazis, his family, he was spared and his mother was spared because they weren't paying attention. They were celebrating, so he lived.
420?
That's Hitler's birthday. And he spoke, yeah, he's alive. He was a
That's pretty
baby.
amazing. So that's in this one? That's in here.
Yeah, I think his name was David. I forget.
Okay, here's what it says. International Holocaust Remembrance Day is on January 27th. That was designated by the United Nations because that was the 1945 liberation of Auschwitz.
That's what I heard.
So basically, the Jewish one was based on something of our resilience. That's why Israel chose that date. But again, if we talk about like a Jewish law thing, you would actually not choose this month. Because this month is observed and honored differently because it's a joyous month.
But I don't understand why I never heard of this. I
Of
mean,
Yom
this-
HaShoah or
Oh, no,
of the Jewish law that you don't
Jewish
have?
law.
Well, first of all, I would say, thank God you haven't needed it. No, I'm being serious. What I mean by that is like a person who doesn't know when their loved one died, they're going to start asking a rabbi, when should I observe it? That's when you'll see those types of discussions. So thank God. I also have never, thank God, I needed that, but I do know about that.
This state just in the United States? 14.
No, so it's based on Israel. So in Israel, it's based on today's Hebrew date, which is also my father's birthday. His Jewish birthday, yeah.
Okay.
The one that we observe. Today's his Jewish birthday.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, it can't be a Hebrew date because it would change each year.
It does change each year.
I thought it was always April 14th.
Well, if it's a Shabbat, they move it. Hold on, let me see. Well, that's a very good question. Let me check. Is Yom HaShoah? No, it's always after Pesach like this. So I think it goes by the Hebrew date. Always April 14. No, Yom HaShoah is not always, while it falls on April 13, 14 in 2026, it moves annually because it is observed on the Hebrew date, the 27th of Nisan.
Okay.
So it's always around this time. So next year it will be May 3rd and 4th. The following year will be April 23rd and 24th. And in 2029, April 11th and 12th.
They all be here.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm saying.
That's okay, they're okay, they didn't go into ER.
No, but Nisan is the joyous month.
Oh, Nissan, I
Yeah.
thought ER was.
No, Iyar is the month of the Sphira. So on the Jewish calendar, we've transitioned from a joyous month to a very sad period in Jewish history as well. We always have sad periods in history. 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva died within a very short period of time. And so because of that, we have a national kind of month of sadness, of mourning. Israel. So Rabbi Akiva was one of the very great sages whose, I'm going to say, most famous teaching was loving your fellow as yourself as a general rule of the Torah. Hillel, the great sage, also had a teaching about loving your fellow. And Hillel came before Rabbi Akiva. So Hillel's teaching was this: what you hate done to yourself, don't do unto others. Ma'adasani Allah, whatever you would hate to be done to yourself, to be done on you, don't do unto others. So that teaching was a teaching that preceded Rabbi Akiva's. Rabbi Akiva came and taught his teaching. It's slightly different. And the reason is he said that there's a shortcoming in Hillel's teaching. If you follow Hillel's teaching, you might think that it is the entire Torah, because the rest of his teaching says this is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. So someone could come to an incorrect conclusion that says, if I am going to have to juggle, let's say a person wants to offer, I'm using a very simple example. Somebody's offering me non-kosher food. I don't want to embarrass him. So maybe I should eat it, because this teaching said, love your fellow as yourself, is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. The purpose of the Torah is I should love and not embarrass somebody. So they can come to an incorrect conclusion that says, instead of embarrassing this person, I'll take the food and eat a little bit. And so Rabbi Akiva realized that people are making mistakes, not necessarily with kosher food. I'm just using that as the example. And so he changed the teaching slightly, and he said it's a general rule, but it is not the entire Torah. The Torah's purpose is definitely there to teach us to be a civil and good society and care about others. And those were all the mitzvot are there to get us to that goal, to live amicably together. But that's a general rule. The Torah still supersedes, every mitzvah still supersedes. That was his change, nuance.
That change to do unto others as others.
How long is that, Christian?
No,
Meaning, say it again.
do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Well, the Romans attributed that
Romans
to
people.
Jesus.
Right. It's like you got to phrase it the right way, and then it becomes his.
All that was done in 325.
Okay. So his,
I see it.
there's a very interesting, not that this is a, well, I'll share something interesting on this little kind of topic. There's a very interesting thing I read that says, so his teachings were used specific ways. So one of the things that is attributed to him, for example, is that it's not about what goes into your mouth, right, food-wise. It's about what comes out. And that was about loving and speaking nicely and caring. Where did that teaching come from? So one thing was, it was for Christians to know that they don't have to keep kosher. It's not about what you eat, it's about what comes out. But there is an interesting theory that says that a lot of these certain teachings that are attributed to him were actually to make a clear distinction between Jew and Christian. This quote.
Part of the 10 Commandments.
No, Ten Commandments is not that.
Love your person like you love yourself. That's what you're
Correct.
talking
No, not Hillel's teaching, but the one that's attributed to Jesus.
about. Oh.
But it's connected to other teachings. And so who taught his teachings? The apostles. So there is a theory. Again, I don't speak from a authoritative anything, But there is a theory that says that a number of the teachings that were attributed to him were actually to separate the Christians and Jews, but for the benefit of the Jewish people. Because what happened is as Christianity started to take hold, people who were friends who looked the same, they were Jewish, let's say, went to the same synagogue, they prayed together, they ate kosher together, and they just had a different belief at a certain point. But you wouldn't know that externally. And so you could kind of get caught up with somebody who didn't believe like you and eventually get you to believe like him, because there was no clear distinction that said, hey, watch out, that guy's trying to change your mind on something that you don't realize. And so there's a theory that some of the apostles were rabbis undercover who are creating the real divide so that we wouldn't make those mistakes. Again, is that proven? No.
Well, it was put together by Constantine at the Council of Nicaea in 325. He made himself the Bishop of Hippo, which is, I think, a city in North Africa.
Why do you know this?
He is a student of history.
I like history.
Read.
I read.
Now you're going to know it, and then we're going to ask you, why do you know it? Because I stand.
And he solidified, it was a political thing. He solidified his church with the Roman Empire. Now he's the head of both of them.
Right.
Whoa. But all of these things that they attributed to Jesus and the apostles and what they said, it was all organized in 325.
So the 300 and something years after, basically, the best lie is told about someone who died. You know that line?
Yeah.
Because they can't correct you.
Certainly no expert in Christianity. I know nothing about it, but what I do know is that Jesus, he was a Jew, practicing Jew, right? Did all the rules. He was a rabbi, teacher, whatever. So all his apostles were all Jewish as well. They were all his buddies that they all feared. I almost feel like it was like almost like a Chabad movement within that.
I'm out of here.
I mean, it was more reform.
I know what you mean. It was an outreach arm of a teaching. But I always think about it differently than that. It didn't start when he was alive. So that's kind of like someone has to be the guy.
Right. He may have been a very pious Jew. Some crazy ideas, and then.
There are so many different theories when you read Jewish texts. There is a story in the Talmud talking about loving your fellow. There's a story in the Talmud of a rabbi who had a student that kind of went off the way, and the teacher pushed him away. He came back to the teacher to apologize, and he made up in his mind that if the teacher accepts his apology, he'll kind of live the Jewish way again. The teacher was in the middle of a prayer that you don't interrupt for. And so when that student came and asked for forgiveness, he wasn't really even acknowledged. Some people say that this is the story of Jesus. Other people say it's different. Nobody really there's no one answer. That's the idea of the history of that. At least in Jewish texts, you can find different commentary or authorities on that. I don't know. I have a really cool book that when I was in when I was in yeshiva, my father had this book. It was called Otzer Vikuchim, which means treasury or treasure of debates. Debates. Because throughout Jewish history, the worst thing that could happen to a community, as I think I've shared this, was that the Christian priest would ask for a debate with the Jewish community, because that was one step away from expulsion or from death.
One step away from what?
Expulsion or death from that city for two reasons. One is, if the Jewish rabbi or representative actually debated openly, the church said, you're insulting us, because you're saying things that are against the church. So that was a no-no. So if you did that, you're already in trouble. And if you didn't do that, you were going to lose the debate. And so there are a few debates that are recorded, and they're in this book. One of them is a very famous debate in Spain. I think it was Nachmanides that debates, and the king allows him to speak freely. And I always remember, there's a couple things I've taken from that debate because they're very good answers without insulting someone when they ask you about why you don't believe my way. But the king at the end of the debate says, I've never seen someone debate in the wrong as well as you. You're on the wrong side of this, but you did a great job. But he, interestingly enough, even though he was given free reign to debate and speak freely, he actually ends up leaving Spain, this rabbi, because word gets out that he won the debate. And now it's like, wait, now you're insulted. What you did here was fine. But now that it's getting out that you won, that's insulting the church. And so he actually left in the end. But those are recorded debates. So they're very fascinating to read. And in this book, there's also like a chapter that kind of gives some of the opinions about the origins of Christianity. So I remember asking my teacher where I can buy it, because my father's copy is really old. He's like, you don't need that book. That's not what you need to be focusing your time on. But eventually I did buy it on Amazon. It's all Hebrew and it's not a new typeset. So it's not like it's difficult to read, but it's fascinating to read some, like when you want to read some of that history. Just sharing.
If you know people.
Correct. Or put into ChatGPT and ask it to translate. By the way, I have a goal there's a book written about Connie's great-grandfather. It's in Hebrew and it's very well written Hebrew. So it's like, even if you know Hebrew, it's like a higher educational style of intellectual Hebrew. And so it takes time to read it. So I asked the uncle who was behind the authoring of this book, I said, can you just give me as a PDF, I'll put it into ChatGPT and ask it to translate it, and I'll read the book in English. So he said he doesn't want, you can lose context when you do that. So he's not comfortable with that. But I felt like that would be a way for me to read it. I think I'm still going to work on that. Yes.
Did he give you a Cliff Notes version?
No, he told me that if we go into English, he has to take some stuff out. So I said, oh, tell me those pages. You were going to ask something?
We had this aunt who lived in Atlantic City. Her name was Aunt Clara. And here's how she kept kosher. In her kitchen, one column here was for meat. And this column here was for dairy. And that included the dishcloths and the soap and everything. But in her closet, there was shelves in there. And she had a long piece of tin foil over it. And that was for the non-kosher.
The tray.
And so I said to her one time, I said, do you know, Aunt Clara, that God does not care about your dishes? She said, oh,
Doesn't care about what?
Her dishes.
Oh.
God does not care about your dishes. She said, no. I said, no. What God cares about is your stomach. Well, she got so upset that I never mentioned it to her again. But
There is a classic, there's a classic.
She was keeping kosher.
She wore dentures, upper and lower dentures, and I would kid her. And Clara, you have to have
Kosher.
milfic, fleishik, and trace dentures.
By the way, that's what I was getting at. There's a joke about this. You left Russia, you couldn't take any money with you. So a lot of people would put gold dentures or whatever it was. This guy comes to Israel, he's going through customs, and he has 7 pairs of dentures. So what's going on over here? He says, what do you mean? I have 2 milchiks and fleishiks. Oh, okay, why do you have another? What's the others? So, I have Passover, milchiks and fleishiks. So, okay.
Yeah.
By the way, it was 5 dentures. He says, what's the 5th? He says, oh, that's for trade.
The answer is once in a while, I feel like having a ham sandwich.
But by the way, on a serious note, for Passover, there are people, if they have removable dentures that are metal, that they will kosher them, like kind of put it in boiling hot water. Again, is it required or not? That will be another conversation. But just so you understand, because people are saying, wait, there's comments going on all the time over here. So maybe I should be cleaning that out.
You should do it every day anyways.
Well, if we go on a very technical Jewish law part of that, if you're putting hot food in your mouth, even in science, right, there are certain levels or heat temperatures that allow absorption or not into other, into metals. If it's so hot, it wouldn't be in your mouth either. So there's kind of like.
The laws came out before there were dentures.
It's true, by the way. And I will share
And
something.
what about Farb? You gotta have a set for Farb.
Maybe maybe that's why there were 7 now that you're saying that. But that's probably what it was. The idea, you are correct. There are certain people that out of an abundance of very scrupulous, kosher consuming law observance, don't use dentures for that reason. Is that many people? No. I'm saying, but I know the concept for this exact reason. Didn't use it. Maybe that was why. You'd have to ask some of family members if they ever heard that. But again, I know that in Jewish law you could do it, but there are people who are extra careful. They want to make sure they're doing it correctly.
Doesn't make sense. Your own teeth have the same.
But your teeth are non-absorption, metal is an absorbing material.
What do you mean dentures?
Correct. Dentures will be absorbing all the different flavors.
Dentures?
Dentures are metal. No, I'm talking about the metal, right? You're not worried necessarily about. You might have people who, again, that same person who doesn't do dentures might not do a filling. I don't know. I don't, it's not something I have personal.
I think that is really against going to them and you should.
Well, the beautiful thing is, I might agree with you, but someone's gonna say, I don't know if you're right.
I have a question. During the Passover Seder, if you sing the song, who knows one, who knows it, 11, what's with the 11 stars? I never heard of them before.
Yeah, that's what it is.
11 what?
So when you do the who knows one is God, 7 is the days of the week, 8 is the days of the bris, 9 is the months that a baby is in a womb, 10 is the 10 Commandments. Tisha Yartei Leda, the time, the months that a baby will be
Oh, I
born.
heard something else for 9. Okay, maybe I mean.
And then it says number 11 is the stars,
Is what?
the stars. 10 is the 10 Commandments.
Why is
So
11?
for the 12 tribes and 13 are the attributes of God, which I want to know what they are.
Okay, I'll tell you that.
But what do you want stars?
It's the 11 stars in Joseph's dream. So basically, what were the stars? Because he was the 12.
Orion and.
Well, no, it refers to, the way I always read it is it refers to in his dream, he had everything bowed down, right? It was to him. So that's the 11 stars in one of the dreams. They all bowed down to him.
All the stars bowed down.
The 11 stars,
The
the
11
11 tribes.
The stars were people.
It's a reference. It's a
I
dream.
see. So not really stars.
No,
I see. I thought they were stars in the
I mean, 82 years to know.
well, let's Google that one for you. Yeah, so let's go chapter 37, verse 9 in Genesis. Feel? Let's do it so we can read the verse. Genesis. Okay, here is the text. And he again dreamed another dream, and he related it to his brothers, and he said, behold, I have dreamed another dream, and behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were prostrating themselves to me. So that's the 11 stars of Joseph's dream.
You're saying they're not stars in the sky.
No, because it's talking about his brothers bowing down. The interpretation of that dream was the brothers would be bowing down to him, which is why they didn't like him. Right? And part of when they sell him is, let's see what will be with his dreams now. Well, all of his dreams came true, right? They come to Egypt and they bow down to him. So his dreams do come true. I think that Jacob in that dream tells him it's impossible because his father says, well, your mother's dead. She can't bow down to you. So who was number 11? Who was the sun? Who was the moon? So if you took the class that we did called Supernatural, it says that every dream, in Judaism it says, every dream has something not true in it. And so the not true part would be the mother not bowing down. Everything else was true.
The sun and the moon
refer to father, mother, and the brothers.
As
You want to know which one? Number 13, what are the 13?
teach and
Okay, so you actually know it. So basically, the 13 attributes of mercy, it says that number 13 of the who knows one is the 13 attributes of mercy. Shlosha Asar Midaya. That's the Hebrew for it. Moses prays for the Jewish people after the sin of the golden calf, that God should save the Jewish people. The actual thing that God tells him is, I am going to teach you the secret of how to get mercy for the Jewish people. What is the prayer? It is the 13 attributes of mercy. When you go high holidays, we sing this a lot. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum B'Chanun Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed B'Emet Notzer Chesed La'alafim Nosei Avon V'Afesha V'Chata V'Nakeh. So we sing this a lot, right? Do you know the tune? You don't know the tune?
Sing it.
See, the problem is because it's God's name, I don't sing it so often. Okay, hold on. I'll sing it without God's name. Hashem, Hashem, Kil Rachum V'Chanun. No one knows this? Erech Apayim Rav Chesed V'Emes. That's the 13 attributes of mercy.
Are there 13?
I'm going to find them for you right now. Okay, here we go. It's well, so on holidays it's sung if it's not Shabbat. So on Passover this year, we sang it when they opened up the ark one time each day. On high holidays, you sing it a lot. So it's more than one time. Okay, here are the 13. The Lord. Well, let me find a good source for it, okay? Hold on. I don't want to do it for something that's not a good source. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here are the 13 attributes of mercy according to the Kabbalah. God, number 1, mighty in compassion to give all creatures according to their need. Rachum, merciful, that humankind may not be distressed. V'chanun, gracious, if humankind is already in distress. Erech apayim means slow to anger. Once it says it to the righteous, and then the second time slow to anger to the wicked. V'rav chesed, plentiful in kindness. That's 6. The emet, number 7, is truth. Notzer chesed, keeping kindness. La alafim, unto the thousands. Nosei avon, forgiving sin. 11 is vafesha, transgression, so forgiving transgressions. V'chata, and sins. V'nake, and pardoning. Now, there is another version to what the 13 are, but it's the same sentence, just how they translate it differently. Point is that these are the 13 attributes of mercy. Here is a Kabbalistic explanation for it. You ready? Everyone holding on? No? Okay, so here we go. Who is a God like you in compassion, who bears iniquity and overlooks sin? For the remnant of his heritage, he does not retain his anger forever, for he desires kindness. He shall again have mercy on us and suppresses our iniquities. Casts our sins into the depths of the sea. You grant truth to Jacob, kindness to Abraham, which you previously swore to our forefathers from the earliest days. Okay, here is the number 13 in general in Judaism. It is the age when a boy becomes bar mitzvah, meaning they'll assume up the responsibilities for Torah laws. 13 tribes of Israel. You're like, wait, we only have 12, but there are 13 if you count Joseph. What happens is Joseph is removed from the 12 tribes because his 2 children become tribes.
His 2 children are included in the 12.
When you do 13, they're included in it. When you say 12 tribes, you either talk about all the brothers, or you remove Joseph and you remove the tribe of Levi.
How about the lost tribe?
No, they're part of the lost tribes, 10 lost tribes. And then there's also the 13 principles of faith according to Maimonides. So this number 13 happens a lot. There's also 13, we have, no, sorry, 13, ways that we study the law according to Rabbi Yishmael, which you find, by the way, some people do this on a daily prayer. They read this before the prayers begin. I'm going to read it with the 13 principles of hermeneutic methodology by which Torah law is extrapolated. That's in the Talmud. We talked about the 13 attributes of mercy. What else is there? 13.
13 in that context is a good number.
Yes.
Correct.
So why in the rest of the world is 13?
You know what? I like Friday the 13th.
Me too.
People always say, I always tell people I've learned from rabbis in the past that Friday the 13th is really a very lucky day for Jews because Friday is Shabbat. 13 is that we see obviously a holy number. So it may have been something anti-Semitic that may have spread.
I have a question.
Go for it.
I went to ChatGPT and they explain it as a Jewish concept, but I want you to explain number 9, Notzer Chesed La'alafim, preserver of kindness for thousands of generations.
Okay, so that actually, I think this is in the Talmud Sota. And I'm going to Google that afterwards. So basically, the question is, just to repeat it, it says that God, if in the sense of favorably looks at somebody's kindness for up to 1,000 generations. A generation is 25 years, by the way. That's what it says, 20 to 25 years. So think about that. That's like till the end of time, past that. The point is that when you do something good, that stands for you that long. Something negative, though, will have a shorter lifespan.
Generation's only 25 years.
They say 20 to 25 years. Again, it doesn't mean that then
80 years.
well, no, because we live multiple generations.
Like, my mother's 22.
She already has new children, so
The producer of another generation.
that's for sure, by the way. What is good and what is bad? Interpretation and, well, I think there are certain truths, but yes. Yeah,
Like my oldest sibling was 17 years older than me. And they said, it's almost another generation.
right, yeah. It's definitely a true thing. It's like, look at siblings or people who are like, they think differently. They're already, I think you used the line on me today when I said about technology.
Oh,
It's like when the wheel. It's like when I was that age, I didn't even know about a computer and we were talking about something.
I have a happy number aqui, I have 18 quail.
18 quail eggs. Is it alive? I'm meaning like,
Oh, yeah, Mama's there.
oh, that's pretty cool.
She takes a break, that comes and sits on the fins. If they're not there, I'm watching out.
You're the, because I think there are, right, exactly. There are animals that will come and eat those eggs. Wow.
Animals of what?
Come and eat eggs. She said she has 18 quail eggs right now in her backyard.
Oh, just the eggs that I had.
They come and go. Judy's the housekeeper in the middle. Right.
Next, my great grand.
Anyways, but going back to something that you asked, like, is today a day for charity? Like, if we went back to the Yom HaShoah question, in general, anytime you want to memorialize somebody who has passed, the Jewish way is definitely to do a mitzvah. Charity is one of the greatest ways to do that. Torah study is another way, and so there are different ways that we provide. I'm going to say more than inspiration, but an uplifting to a soul that has passed. And so, yeah, is today the right day? If you're commemorating them today, then you would do today. If today is just another day on some people's calendars, then you choose whatever day you're doing that, and you would give in that honor. I did read something interesting. It said that, let's say there is no one in synagogue that needs to say Kaddish. So you're at a service, and there's always a mourner's Kaddish, and no one needs to say it that day. No one lost somebody within the year. No one has a yard site that day. should someone say Kaddish or not?
That's you could say for those that don't have anyone to say it for them.
So, but maybe no one needs it today. By the way, I'm just pushing back just to bring out I mean, we all have opinions. I'm like, what do you mean? I want to get out of school earlier. Like if someone's gonna say Kaddish, it's gonna be another 5 minutes.
You know, in the Reform movement, everybody stands up and says Kaddish because the feeling is we're saying it for each other. Yeah.
So I'll tell you something, I go to a lot of funerals where everyone's saying Kaddish, and I don't, because thank God I have my parents alive. But the concept to me is, I get both sides of it. I understand why people they're all there for each other, like you just shared. On the other hand, it's like, it's not my day to say Kaddish, so why am I saying it if there's someone saying it? So I understand both sides. But let's go back to like a service that has nobody that needs to that day. It says that someone still should say Kaddish because of all the souls, like you mentioned, that have no one say Kaddish for them. And so there's never a right or wrong time. But I'm thinking about this, it's like when you think about that sentiment from that rabbi who said, I'm not going to say Kaddish for my loved ones who were killed in the Holocaust because they don't need my Kaddish. I need them more than they need me. Right? They're the holy ones. It was his sentiment. It's not a Jewish law thing or not. This was his sentiment. I am not going to say Kaddish because they died for God. And so their souls are holy. They don't need me to uplift them. In fact, if I pretend like they need me, I'm dragging down, I'm taking away from this.
But when you say Kaddish, you're reaffirming your faith in God. That it's not really for them, it's really for you.
Okay, so hold on. Kaddish has one line that does agree with. Well, we say, blessed is the true judge, that we accept that God knows a person's time on this earth and when their time is complete. There is one line in the Kaddish that has a similar sentiment. So the mourner says that, right? I don't walk around every day and say, blessed is the true judge. We do it for a specific thing. And so that Kaddish, he was saying, I don't need that. I know these people, I don't know why they died. I don't know why God did a Holocaust. But what I do know is these people were brutally murdered, his own family, right? He's talking about his family, just because they're Jews. Yeah. He built, I think one of the hospital systems is because of it. Ladino Hospital in, the Landano Hospital. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is from him. So he wasn't just the guy who sat back. He rebuilt his entire Hasidic dynasty. I want to find it just so I can tell you.
So while you're looking, can I ask you?
Sure.
On Yom Kippur, the memorial service, I refuse to go to that because you want to do this.
No, I want to hear it. You refuse to go to the Yisker service? Okay.
Both of my parents are gone. Let's take my mother. I think of my mother a million times a day. She was my best friend. She was my mother. She was everything. Why do I have to go to temple? That prayer to remember my mother when I think of her every day of my life.
Okay, so there are two parts to this answer that I'll share. Number one is that Sephardic do not do Yisker. I don't know if you know that. No, I'm explaining. Why didn't they need it?
Yeah.
So potentially you could say that maybe that's part of it. It's like, I don't need the rabbis instituted Yisker as an annual try, or 4 times. And 4 times in a year that you'll remember your loved ones. But remembering your loved ones does not just mean reading a name. That's the biggest part that a lot of people don't realize. The way that you remember your loved one is by doing a mitzvah. So if you look at the prayer, I'm going to just pull it up. It says, in whose merit we pledge charity on their behalf. That's maybe the biggest part of the Yizkor
You
prayer.
could do that without going to the shul.
Well, it doesn't have to go to the shul.
Yes.
The idea is do a mitzvah for them. To answer your question, do you have to go or not? No one has to do anything, right? It's definitely a tradition that this is one of the things that we do. We'll mention their names in the prayers, but I will share with you, and I was just speaking to somebody over Pesach, Connie's grandmother, actually. She was saying, like, until she really was reading about Yizkor, in our siddur, not the traditional Ashkenaz siddur, it is a single paragraph. I have a Yizkor book that I can pull up right here, and it's 6-7 pages. So there are different traditions even within that. And I just learned something so beautiful that a guy just shared with me. I don't know what shul he goes to, because we were talking about this during when I went out for Yizkor. He said that their Yizkor service in their shul takes an hour. So what does it take an hour for? He said they mention a name, and then they ask the family member if they want to speak about their loved one, share something. I thought that was so beautiful, though, right? So in that regard, it should be an independent Yizkor service. You choose to be there or not. But for others, Yizkor is an opportunity to connect in a more spiritual way. The Torah is out. You're with a minyan. You're mentioning your loved one, and you're going to do a mitzvah, whether it's charity or something else, for their merit.
On that day.
No, the mitzvah, you can pledge.
Can't get the money on them.
No, it doesn't have to be charity that day. It could be, first of all, it could be I'm going to study. I'm going to start doing a monthly whatever. It could be whatever. Right? Those are the gifts. Right, exactly. Yeah.
Jamie, I'm here. I understand what you're saying. I lost my parents and they are in my dream every single night. Every single night, as if I have a double life. At night I'm with my parents, and the day I live my normal life. So I understand why you used to. But I say, like Rabbi said, you don't have to do anything. Nobody's only you don't have to do anything. But if, let's say, you give a kiddush in their name, it's just something to elevate them further. That's all it is. It's not, if you say their name, the kid, Yizkor, it's like 5 minutes. It's, say their name and you say blessing God. So there's nothing. God is not come down and touch you, tap you and say, good job. It's something you just do if you want to go further in a group of Jewish people. That's how I see it. I want to mention my parents' name in the setting of a shul with the Torah there, because I don't need a reminder. They're there.
But I will do a devil's advocate on this for just a moment to kind of share one little thing that kind of jives with what you're saying, and then this is what it says. It says that a child of somebody who passed away doesn't have to mention a person's name that they are doing something in their merit if it is their parents. Because your parents had such an effect on you, they raised you, they brought you up, that every time you do something, they get a merit for it. If I was doing it for an uncle or for a sibling, I have to have them in mind. So on the one hand, yes, we live with them, which is what you're saying. I live with them. On the other hand, mentioning them connects to them again. So like just the mere mention of somebody connects. Remember, names touch the essence of the other individual. Names are not for ourselves. I don't need a name. I don't call myself. But when I call somebody else, I need a name to talk to them. And what turns? Like, how do I define who turned to me when I called your name? Right? Her entire being. So a name evokes and calls on the essence of an individual. So there's a lot of, I don't know that there's one answer, and I understand what you're saying. It's like, I don't need a data.
It's not only parents that you see.
My tradition is only parents.
Only
That's why it's such a short Yizkor. That's how I was just sharing. It's like a tiny paragraph.
When I was young and you were in shul, all the kids said.
Right, we still do that. That's still the tradition.
That's
Hold on, stand 1 second, let me take it, yeah.
So it says if your parents are alive, you don't stay. But whenever one's alive, and one said you stay.
Then you say, correct. Also, just an interesting thing, the first year that a person passed away, you don't recite Yizkor, you stay in the room for Yizkor. There are a lot of traditions with this.
The first year, I don't know.
Correct. You stay in the room, but you don't say it. Why don't you say it? Because that soul is torn. That soul is in a transition period, and when you call it, you draw it down.
Oh,
And then you're like, wait a second, I'm trying to help the transition go smoothly. I'm saying Kaddish, there's some interesting things on this. No problem. Yeah, you want to ask.
The answer to my question may be, the answer is there is no answer, but a few minutes
That's a
ago,
Jewish answer.
a few minutes ago, you were talking about reading a prayer at the gravesite
Right.
and saying that God has decided that these are the number of days a person can spend on earth. Now, God didn't write that prayer. It was probably written by someone outside of
Accepting God's
what they
judgment.
think.
Right.
God's
Well,
thinking.
Correct. It's from our perspective, saying that God knows a person's time on this earth.
But that's,
We accept it.
but that's our perspective.
Correct. We accept it. That's the idea, is we accept it. We can't change it.
What I'm asking, how did that begin?
Well, I don't know. Where did that blessing come from?
Well, it's created by man, not God.
Correct. Yeah, I would agree with you. The rabbis, or let's say it was let's say a lot of prayers that we have come from a specific era in Jewish history. And so, like Ezra the scribe is one of the people that is associated with a lot of our prayers, the way we do prayers today. It's very possible that he introduced this prayer, meaning the sages, that a person has passed away. We just accept it. We can question all day long, but we accept that our knowledge is only up to here. And to understand that, we would need to be heavenly. So as an individual, we accept at the funeral, God knows a person's time, and we can't control that. It's kind of, I think you're correct. It's from our perspective.
if somebody say, I don't know if I misheard this, that you say Kaddish for a year?
No, you say Kaddish for the year, but you don't do Yizkor that year. You stay in the room, but you don't recite the memorial
What's the
prayer.
difference in Kaddish and Yiddish? Yizkor.
Yizkor is the memorial prayer. Kaddish is praising God. It's a totally different prayer.
Why
Yeah,
don't you say?
you do say Kaddish.
Why don't you?
So I would have to confirm this. I haven't brushed up on this. But one of the ways I understood it, which I shared, was the soul is transitioning away from this earth. So there are, well, that's why we say Kaddish for a whole year. So there are two reasons why you wouldn't recite Yizkor. One is you don't need to recite Yizkor. That loved one is still fresh in your mind. You're constantly thinking about that person. The other reason is the same reason why you wouldn't visit their grave for a year. Many people have that custom because in this transition, every time the loved one comes to this soul, the soul wants to naturally be with the family.
Why is the thing about 11 months, such as the unveiling, the Kaddish, 11 months?
Right.
Why 11?
Okay, so the unveiling those traditionally, I wouldn't say 11 months, meaning some people do it 12 months, some people do it right after Shiva. There's really no official time.
Veiling right after Shiva.
Yeah, that's like our custom.
The ground has to be settled.
First of all, the family might not even be present if you think about it. If they don't visit the grave for a year, they have that tradition and this tradition. To hold that thought though, to answer this. So it's 11 months minus 1 day. We don't even want to say Kaddish in the 12th month. The reason for that is Kaddish is recited for a year for the soul, hoping that it doesn't need 12 months, because it says that even though we don't believe in hell, we do believe in a cleansing, that a soul throughout the lifetime on this earth might need the washing machine to clean the soul before it goes to heaven. For some people, that could be 30 seconds in the washing machine. For others, it might mean 9 months if they really didn't live a good life. 12 months would mean they were terrible. And so for that reason, we make a statement and we don't recite Kaddish into the 12th month. We're making a statement that we don't believe this person was evil. Now, When do we recite it for 12 months? There are a couple opinions about this, but just one of the opinions is that for suicide, you would recite it for 12 months. Nowadays, we don't do that because we understand that suicide is a mental health issue. But in the olden day, they didn't think that. They said this person committed murder on themselves. And so that's why they weren't buried in the same areas. Now we do bury them in the same areas. There are a lot of changes.
You bury him where?
And it used to be that you didn't bury them in the general area of the Jewish section.
A certain section next to the fence.
Right, like outside, because it was like, there were a couple reasons for that. One is they didn't want to encourage it upon others. So they said, look, we scorned them. People didn't even sit Shiva for those people. A lot has changed as a society has learned that people don't choose to commit suicide. They are torn inside. But in the olden day, they didn't know that. And so we treated it differently in Jewish law.
There's also an deterrent.
Well, that's what I said. It's like, but I mean, and it's funny because like in modern day, they talk about suicide contagion. Do you know about that? When you see when law enforcement, I'm using even police departments, when they see an officer has committed suicide, they are very concerned that another troubled officer, for whatever that guy's going through, because he or she saw something that has been eating at them or whatever their lived experiences are, they're afraid that others will follow suit. It's a very big, it's known.
That's teenagers.
There was a movie, I think, on Netflix about suicide, about this. And they said they saw an uptick in teenage suicides.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was like, I'll tell you in a second, suicide TV show, Netflix controversy. This is what it said. Okay, it was 13 reasons why. Generated intense controversy regarding its graphic portrayal of teen suicide, bullying, and sexual assaults. Critics, mental health professionals, and advocacy groups argued that the show violated safe media reporting guidelines, potentially glamorized suicide, and risked triggering copycat suicides among vulnerable youth. Again, it's called 13 Reasons Why. I did not watch it. I'll end off on that, but again, yes, do a mitzvah for any one of those that we want to help their soul.
But if we don't do, what you said, Yisker, the other one, Kaddish, then they can come back. As you said, it brings them closer to coming back. So if you do it, but then if you don't, then they may come back
Hold on, coming back to what?
alive.
No, okay, you know what, I will end off with the prophecy of Isaiah that says, God will wipe away tears from all faces. The Lord God will destroy death forever. That is the prophecy that Isaiah says about the end of times. And that has obviously been one of the most powerful prophecies that Jewish people live by, so much so that if you are familiar with the song Ani Mamin, I believe, that millions of Jewish people marched to their deaths with during the Holocaust. So much so that one of the tunes that is known today for Ani Mamin, are you familiar with the Ani Mamin?
Yes.
Ani Mamin, right? So one of the tunes that we have today is because a rabbi who composed it on one of the trains to his death taught it to another prisoner, another Holocaust prisoner, who said that if anyone can get this song to my rabbi, wherever he was, who survived the war, I will give him my share in the world to come. That's the story behind this. This guy jumps off the train with the song in his mind and eventually brings the song to his teacher. And I think I'm going to get the song's origins,
Can
but
you say that thing again you said about Isaiah?
yes. Isaiah's prophecy is that the Lord God will wipe away tears from all faces. The Lord God will destroy death forever. And I might have flipped it, but that's the...
You have a real population problem.
Well, if you remember, you're not right. You're not dead. If your memory lives, you're really not dead.
Shalom Aleichem.
Okay, that's
Memory's not
All
there.
right, I'll end the recording on that, but I am going to get the origin of the song, at least what I just shared. So that will be my...
Then you
Joanne, didn't they say something
Yeah, there
about
was a
song?
famous book